Blandon, thanks for joining us today, taking some time to explain how things have evolved in land management. You've been working in that area for a long time, so I'll let you start and present yourself first.
Thank you, Josie Ann. Yeah, I'm Blandon Granger, SRWA. I'm the supervisor real estate services at SMUD, which is Sacramento Municipal Utility District. So we are a community elected board utility that provides electric service to the Sacramento, California region. And as an electric utility, we are, well, in my opinion, fortunate enough to provide not only the service, the distribution system, but we also do generation, transmission, and multiple technologies on top of that. So what I mean is with generation, we have both a hydro system, a series of dams that are in the Sierra Nevada that produce electricity and then bring that down to the valley to our customers, as well as wind projects, solar projects, thermal, so that's natural gas generation systems. So the full gamut, and we've got to work on all those from the real estate perspective. We're focusing on electric utilities. I think in this webinar, I do have experience with the city of Sacramento, city of Roseville, and then also with the transit district as well. So I've seen on the side of water utilities and sewer, et cetera, as well. So thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to providing the insight as I've seen it and heard from my colleagues, namely at the IRWA and the Electric Utility Committee, as well as the Asset Management Committees.
Yes, thanks for coming over. So you've been in that domain for 25 years. Let us know a bit, how much has it changed? Yeah.
Yeah, great question. Hopefully I'm not dating myself too much as I answer some of these questions or talk about the things that I will talk about. But yes, so when I started at SMUD, which would have been 2006, I would pretty much say, well, we had really just started getting into wind. We hadn't gotten into solar. We did have some solar, but it was very small projects on land that SMUD already owned. But really the focus was just on the distribution system, hooking up new customers, and the transmission line system had already been built out. So it was pretty static. It was more like keep the lights on rather than expansion and new technologies. So that's kind of how I saw it coming in, and then since then, and especially probably in the last 10 years, there's just been a rapid acceleration in different types of technologies that are being implemented and employed into our system and to feed into SMUD. And every electric utility has an IRP, so that's integrated resource plan. So that's a plan that dictates what type of resources are going to come into the system to serve the public. And a lot of states have renewable portfolio standards that dictate what percentage of the electricity being consumed is from renewable technology. So that has also been an impact. Obviously, we have to bring in these different resources, and by nature, those facilities and those power plants are much different than what we used to have, which was kind of a static, either natural gas, coal in some areas, and nuclear in our case. We did have a nuclear plant. So that's really how I've seen it. Again, it was mostly, different customer types, but we didn't have EVs yet really hitting the market like they are now. You didn't see electrification of buildings. So now we have some cities that attempted to require full electrification, to mitigate greenhouse gases in their communities. That did work and didn't quite work in some areas, but some developers, residential developers in our area, have decided to just go forward and do it that way anyways. So what does that do? It it adds more demand on our systems, and our grid has to be expanded to accommodate all those new resources that are
Yeah.
tapped in.
Yeah. So it makes the landscape much more complex, intertwined.
Yeah.
Um, Now, tell me more about the project. They seem to be now taking longer. They're not shorter, even though there's much more. So tell me a bit more about this.
Well, there's a lot of competing interests. Again, with the renewable portfolio standards requiring these renewable sources, you have developers now, renewable developers that have really popped up probably in the past, say, 10 years. Competing for transmission space. So you have a lot of a lot of work by the utilities to look at and evaluate those projects, as well as bring them online and wheel that energy, to the ultimately to the customer. So just sheer numbers of requests and projects that people are looking at, as well as I know there's been a lot of work to try to mitigate uh, delays in permitting, but there seems to always be more and more requirements. I would say for us locally in California, probably a new thing that I'm seeing a lot of is cultural resources. And when you do come up upon those, how do you handle that? And what work do you need to do? So it's added more time and work definitely to a number of our projects. And that's just one example.
Thanks. And now I'd be curious to know if people who have joined us in the audience feel the same. How has the number of active projects your team managed changed over the 5 to 10 years? So I'm going to be launching a poll. You should access it in the right tab, or there's going to be a pop-up, and going to add to the stage so that we can see who experienced the same thing. So what do you think are going to be the answers, Blandon?
I don't know. I'm curious to see. I mean, it really obviously depends on where people are in the country, the utilities that they're working for, or if they're supporting as a consultant. But wow, so far we're seeing it looks overwhelmingly
Yeah.
increased significantly.
And it also seems like the audience has been working in that sector. Nobody said that they were not working in that sector long enough to see the difference. So we have
Yeah, yeah.
very savvy people watching.
Oh,
Oh,
there's one person. Somebody heard you.
yep.
All right,
Uh,
it keeps shifting, but I think this is great. It does confirm that what we see out there is that the number of have increased significantly.
mhm. For everyone, yeah. Because I know I'm pretty sure we have people who joined us from the United States, but also from Canada and other places in the world. So it seems like it could be a global trend where this interconnectivity and projects taking longer is everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for
absolutely.
participating, everyone. I'm just gonna.
And this is pretty and that's pretty accurate. I mean, even my experience, it used to be we would have maybe one or two substations that we would acquire, substation sites. We have a list going right now of at least 15 plus, and it's a constant moving target. And a lot of times these are, and this just adds to it gives a little color to that complexity, is that it's driven by customer and developer demand, really. So we won't build substations until we know that that load is going to be ready to be served, because that's a significant investment, not only in capital but also manpower to design it and build it and inspect the building and all those other things, and do the line design for the getaways and the power coming in. So and that's all limited, very limited
Yeah.
resources on the human side as well as the capital side. So uh, we have to pick and choose, and again, it comes down to is it ready? Is it going to be ready? And
Yeah. And because of that pressure, I guess that's it also increases the velocity of those demands. So um, there more complexity, longer project. How about the increased pressure? Like, how is that?
yeah, and for us in real estate, we are on the front lines. We're often in the beginning of any project because we need to obtain those property rights or confirm that we may already have property rights. And you know, we need to get that done on time in order to ensure the project schedules are maintained. So, you know, it's gone from the complexity and scale. This is really, it's evolved from just not just a tactical maintenance task, but now with, especially with data centers, it's a strategic national security priority. So in the last 20 years, I would say this industry, the electric industry, has moved from centralized and static to more of a distributed and hyper growth type of model. Um, and some of the factors there really are the literal expansion of scale. And again, with some of these renewable projects, I know a lot of folks on the call have probably worked on them. We know that you can't just build a wind project or a solar project near the city.
Mm,
Often they're way out in the middle of nowhere where those resources are. Where is the wind resource adequate to make a project pencil out? So, and then what is that going to require? That's going to require miles and miles of transmission to get it back, or gen-tie lines,
yeah,
uh, access routes, all kinds of different property um, interests that need to be acquired and managed into the future. Different leases. They're also huge land areas too, right? So instead of just one property owner or two property owners, you may be dealing with dozens to assemble the correct amount of land that you need. And if it's under a lease, often when are under lease, that just adds to that layers and layers of complexity that you have to deal with, not only on the acquisition side, but remember, you're going to be managing and paying those lease payments going out oftentimes 34 years and 11 months.
yeah, yeah. Does that also for those project to go faster? What's have the expectant change? Sorry, from management for real time information, so that they know all the time where is this project stand?
Right.
Like, is it ready for approval? Like, has this also changed?
Well, knowing what property rights you have, what the statuses are, I mean, you could have everything from option agreements to exercise options already. Some portions be leased, some portions be owned in fee. And obviously, having a status and knowing those property rights, and being able to provide that to the decision makers is very key, to be nimble and to be able to move quick in the industry, which is very important. um, and having all this in a system that you can quickly look up and perhaps, I think the best is really on a GIS or map based system, so that you can see, on the map, the location, all the different property rights that are needed, and where they're at in the process. So that if there is a gap, if you're just looking at a list, sometimes it's difficult to really see the correlations and the spatial relationships there. So to be able to see one parcel that may have gotten forgotten and
Mm,
not on a list is, that's going to help you in the long run, because construction cannot start until you have pretty much all the rights
yeah,
acquired,
yeah,
especially for linear projects too.
yeah. Now, I'd be curious to see if the members of the audience feel the same pressure, or where they do feel the most pressure. So I just launched a new poll, and I'll add it to this stage so that we can review the results. And for you, for yourself, Blandon, where do you think that um, this the operational pressure was the biggest for you?
Operational pressure, I think for us, yes, working with our veg management group, that's a huge capital expense, very critical safety issue, state requirements, you name it. So to be able to provide that team our property rights, our access rights, and working with the public and working with those landowners, often, we do get pushback. They don't want us to come on, they don't want us to cut their trees, etc. But having those sufficient rights and being able to pull those up, you know, in a timely manner when those discussions are being had is critical to moving past some of these bottlenecks.
Mm.
So
And
let's take a look at the poll here. Wow, lots of different, a lot of different. It's
it's kind
across
of,
the board,
yeah,
isn't it?
there is a trend for internal workload and capacity. So I guess that the complexity and the speed makes it harder to work well and efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the internal workload and capacity is a huge one. That's kind of, something that we see at SMUD. We've got so much work. We're trying to juggle it. We're trying to manage it. There's so much on the plate, and again, as it moves around, the target moves. Some things get deferred. We're told we need to work on this one. Let's get it now. So all that stuff is constantly shifting.
Mm. Now, something we haven't talked about, but is also pressuring, you've touched about it about vegetation management, is the operating environment is very unstable and predictable. In what ways?
Oh, well, I mean, permitting and clearing issues. You have to abide by the conditions of that. So you have to really manage that. You have to be able to advise the contractors that are out there in the field of those items. You've got, I mean, for us, transformer shortages often dictate, it's got to be ready. Things have to be ready. Um, just that alone, just the supply of the parts and the pieces that build the systems, um, is critical and adds that element of unpredicted, of being unpredictable. Excuse me. Also, political winds change. I mean, for us, we see city leadership change frequently, and often what was agreed or rules that were set in the past may not carry through in the future. So you're often changing that, and that goes into your lead times and how it could be your whole acquisition strategy as to how you go about acquiring property rights for a project. So that's another component that's in there. Public sentiment, obviously. So again, it is a very unstable environment that is constantly changing. And then for stuff that's already built, often you've got everything from encroachment management. You have unhoused issues a lot of times where, and you have to bring in law enforcement because it's your property. Law enforcement has to know that you want them to assist in those matters. So there's just stacks and layers of different issues depending
Mm.
on the property and depending on the property rights you have too as well, right? So you really, technology has got to be your friend to be able to see that and understand what rights you have, how you advise your internal clients, how you advise management on the various situation, because it's often really what rights do we have? What can we do? Sometimes it's beyond the agency or the utility if we only have rights to do certain things.
Mm. Um, Talking about the technology and encroachment. Um, Something that is probably pressuring also the utility sector is the rise of AI. So we have a small fun question here. We'll show you two pictures. This is for the audience to vote which one of the picture, and then you can talk to us about the real one, is real. So is picture A a real encroachment situation, or is picture B the real one? I'll push the poll. I forgot the real situation. So which one is AI and which one I'll show them again. So A or B. So you can choose. See if people got it right. Interesting. I
All
can,
right,
oh, sorry.
50-50.
Yeah, I'll add this to this stage again. So let's push the poll back with the final result. So 52 is the correct one, and picture, so 50-50. Okay, someone jumped in and said, no, we have to balance this out. So we'll go back and I'll identify the correct one. So actually, this one is the correct one. So this one is real and this one was AI. So you want to tell us more about what happened here, Blandon?
Yeah. So I coincidentally, ironically, whatever you want to say, while I was speaking with the Earth folks about this webinar, this is actually an issue that popped up on my email, I think, while we were discussing the
Yeah, right.
planning of this webinar. And I said, well, hey, here you go. This is, finally, I've gone to conferences, I've seen presentations on encroachments, and they always are very entertaining, right? You just love to see, and you say, oh my, what? Really? Like somebody did that? So here we are. SMUD finally has got just a doozy. Can you believe that? Look at that. I think we probably told them, we do look at all development entitlement requests that come through, and we do comment. Likely, what happened here is they've kept a radius. It looks maybe about 30 feet around, which is typically what we tell them, 30 to 50 feet from the base of the towers. So it looks like they took that very literally and did not disturb that area. But geez, I can't imagine how we're going to access those facilities. That's going to be a very tall ladder, just to get up there. And then what about the other part? Obviously, the clearance issue isn't, they've increased the clearance. So we're not getting closer to the wire, which is what you would have with fill. So yeah, the stuff really happens is the point. And this was only about 2 months ago or so. Again, this is a aggregate mining type of company that own the property. We do have an easement on it. However, you can see they've done what they typically do on properties. I believe they are ultimately going to fill it back in, but obviously we need to make sure our current operations, and you can see there's multiple lines that are affected here. And I think this is not only just SMUD. I think this is probably likely WAPA and PG&E as well. So yeah, again, managing your rights, knowing what the rights are there. I would say that this is probably a use that that doesn't allow us to enjoy our rights, to go out there and make fixes and so forth. This is extremely unusual. So we wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, and thanks for everyone for voting. And that brings a good subject there. I think there's more coexistence of various projects. So here we see digging, mining, with utilities. So a lot more stakeholders. There's a lot more demand. So it brings me a bit to what is the environment where everyone now has a voice and they use it. How has that affected project?
Yeah, certainly. I think everybody probably on the webinar, unless you're really new, that stakeholder involvement is now more than ever prevalent. People have access now. I mean, I remember when just people creating web pages or Facebook uh, groups and so
Yes.
forth. And so you have that plus so much more. People can go in and type in AI to get answers that are quick and actually quite accurate and pretty good. You know, what should I do if this utility wants to locate this project in my backyard? You know, what are my options? And man, you can get an outline of how you would pose that or ask for things instantly. So the public is definitely much more informed. But so are we, right? Utilities also have options. I see tools um, by companies now that gauge sentiment. So they have feelers. They're listening to the wires, so to speak, and they're hearing what the chatter is out there, either on social media, in the news, news releases, and so forth. And they'll actually score and map out, you know, where the sentiments are, so we can actually see them and actually kind of head off some of those opinions at the pass, if you will, with different strategies and so forth. If we have proponents, that's great. You know, we don't have to focus there so much, um, but it definitely raises the bar on how we work with landowners. Everybody knows the right of way folks are usually the first ones out in the field. They're the boots on the ground. They're going to be knocking on those doors. The public has to be informed about these projects, and otherwise it's going to make our job when we go out there to acquire property that much more difficult. So that is definitely what's happening. Again, it's just accelerated more. I think we've all known it's always been there, but with technology, you know, some folks may be moving faster than us, you know, using AI. So as utilities, we can't just think of it as a sleepy landowner that doesn't know technology or whatnot. I mean, now you have to kind of go into it that you know, it's possible that they can have better information at their fingertips than even us, because we have a
Yeah.
lot of things to focus on, right? We've got title, appraisal, the negotiations, working internally, and then as well as how are we going to negotiate with the landowner? The landowner can focus purely on the aspects that they want and use technology for that. So that's a challenge for us, and we have to be prepared for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to be prepared. You need to adapt. So what do you think in your eyes are the risks if you keep doing things the old way with spreadsheet and, you know, old processes? What are the
I
risks?
think the number one thing really is trust. I think it can come down to, if you don't have answers, if you can't be competent, um, you know, when information is requested or when you're discussing any part of any project or existing property that you own, you know, the public trust that would be lost there. You know, why don't you know that? You don't know what you own. You don't know what rights you have. So, you know, and loss of trust is in any business situation is not good, obviously, for any kind of negotiations or just being a good neighbor as well. Just if you're going to be out there, you have to be a good neighbor. You want to have a good trust factor with all those people. You don't want to go out there making promises and then breaking those promises. So if you don't adapt, that those are some of the costs, I think.
Hey, we have a
And
question. I think it's related to that in the stakeholder.
okay,
Someone asked, how early in a due diligence period do you start informing the public?
good question. I think this varies. This varies, you know, depending on which utility you're with, where you are out in the country, and it could also be the system operator or the state certificate certification processes. They have different requirements too. For me to ask that question of me because I am with a kind of a smaller publicly owned, so we handle it all ourselves, and we're not regulated by the state actually. So we really make those decisions on our own, and really what we follow mostly is the California Environmental Quality Act, otherwise known as CEQA, and that has all the different pub town halls, etc. Uh, Public notice, sending out notices to property owners within X amount of miles of the project and so forth. But I think the earlier the better to start informing the public and actually getting some feedback, in your prior or during your routing studies, I think is a best practice, really, so it's not a surprise later on in time, and you can make adjustments, you can re-engineer, work with the engineers to maybe reroute problematic areas. If you
Mm,
find out, say, I remember a few years back, this is more on the pipeline side, but going through aquifers was a very touchy subject, and to avoid that, would save a lot of heartache and time. So, so that's another fact. You've got, if you don't adapt, I mean, just on the downstream side of things, after you own the property, reputational risk. If you're not out there managing your property and keeping it clear, there's that aspect of it. You're just going to get the calls anyways from the local agency to go clean up or do weed abatement. Um, you know, those sorts of things that I think are pretty key as well, just to keep your
mm.
property cleared.
And yeah, a last poll for our audience. How confident are you that you have the right technology to provide real-time project status to avoid those risks? Uh, so I'll add the results. Right. What do you think, Blandon? It's going to be the trend here.
I'm going to hold off until everybody chimes in. I don't want to lead the voting, right?
It's very
Mm,
keeps moving.
yeah, it's changing. It's good.
Oh, oh, that's good. That makes me confident.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
a majority says that they're very confident they're right using the right tools, so they've adapted. This is great.
yeah. I think in the past, what I've heard, and I was always invited a part of the IRWA asset management committee, and we would often have a technology roundtable or presentations, and that was always the number one thing people wanted to know. Hey, what's a great way to manage what databases, what GIS systems? That was always a top topic that we would put on, and to get in attendance and get feedback from people. And I would always hear, oh geez, I just started at this place, this city, or this utility, and it's just terrible, or this, so we've always heard this. I know it's difficult to implement systems. I can attest to that. Personally, it takes a lot of time and effort to get a new system going, and to be innovative and to move into that. Um, I mean, but obviously it helps, and that's the other part of it. Is I think often we're asked, well, what is the business justification? And really, some of the things that would be just to be able to stay organized as scale increases. So, for me right now, this time frame with some of the solar projects that we have, where we are going to be doing these leases that are extremely high value and critical to our IRP, and I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars. So you want to be able to manage those leases and those payments and all the terms and conditions spot on. You don't want to risk, uh, you know, falling out of compliance with the lease or with the landowner in any way, because that could jeopardize that project and the long-term viability of it. So just staying organized, having real-time information in front of you in a central location. I can't say enough about how how great it was that we actually did have a pretty good system in place where most of our stuff was digital. So when COVID hit and we were not in the office, we couldn't go to the office, we were still able to operate without any hiccups, really. I mean, there was a few things, especially for signed documents, getting those checked and then into the recorder's office. Yes, that's a manual process. But for the team to be able to pull up, hey, where's our property rights? And that sort of thing, you know, they didn't need to be in the office. They had that at their fingertips. So that's a really key aspect of it. I think just having visibility, having that information, number one, providing that to your clients, to your upper management is very key. So people know what you're doing, that you're working on it. Um, and you're being able to be proactive. You're able to see trends. You're able to see which parcels or which areas may need to be worked on, and and maybe long lead items as well. So railroad crossings, other pipeline crossings, other electric utilities that you're going to have to obtain a joint use or a consent from. Just being able to have that information at your fingertips
Mm.
is pretty key, and just to have visibility on that, and it helps to make those complex projects just feel more achievable rather than just completely overwhelming.
Mm. A good point. And so I think we've come to the end of our webinar, but have you, a quick question, have you met anyone who said, no, I'm doing things right, I'm using the good old ways? Do you still feel there's people around you or in other utilities that do things the old fashioned way and don't want to move forward? What would you say to them?
Um, well, I think you're everybody's right now is living in a great time where technology can be accessed and implemented and deployed pretty quickly, compared with even just a few years ago. A couple of years ago, I did a presentation with Esri, and it was regarding digitizing all the easements, digitizing all of our property rights. And back then, we had the project, and we had to have people actually do COGO. So that means type in all the legal descriptions to create those polygons. Now you have AI doing this, and this was a couple years ago. So I can only imagine that it's only improved more and more as the machines learn how to do this more and more and better, and we're able to advise the machines how to do this. But even then, the cost factors were a fraction of what it cost SMUD when we did it, say 10 years ago. So, and timing. I mean, it took us years to do that. I think you could rip through and have your whole portfolio done very quickly at a fraction of the cost. So that's one thing right there. You've got all these different stacks of different technologies and tools that can be used as well. So and it's just constantly advancing too. So I would say, you know, you're in a great place, embrace it, try to use it. Companies also want it. Companies know we need to be innovative. We can't just be the same companies we used to be. We can't do work the way we used to with everything that's going on. So, at SMUD, they talk about growth mindset, and
Mm.
innovation's been big for years. How do we make things more efficient? How do we raise the bar on managing things? So having these kind of technology data systems is key to that. Otherwise, you can't just work off the old files. You can't go to your files, and that's another thing, space. I mean, most files now are kept off site, so you have to order it, get it, look in it, read it, figure out the problem you're trying to solve, and then return it. When boom, you could do that pretty quickly. And what I'm hearing, we haven't seen it yet, but what companies want to do, especially in the GIS space, is get to the point to where it's like an AI tool or like an Alexa, where you say, Alexa, tell me all of my parcels that still need to be acquired that have a, a deadline date of December 1, and boom, it'll do it for you.
Hmm.
It's just mind boggling how things are going to be in the future. So
Yeah.
um, I'm
So
looking
it
forward
has.
to that. Lucky to all the youngsters coming into the industry. Um, oh, that's funny. My Alexa just heard me and is responding. So sorry for the background noise, folks.
Sounds good. We have
All
a
right.
question. So it seems like the change of moving to technology doesn't only have to come from individuals saying I need to adapt, but also from the organization that needs to have this innovative mindset. So, but someone here asked, what are the must-have from a system because they need to get off. This person needs to get off spreadsheet and wants map. What else should we be looking into for a modern system?
Well, you have to know what you want to get out of a system. That's the first place to start. Is what am I going to be asking of this system? What reports do I need? What are the common things that we're always looking for? What that we're trying to answer, or problems we're trying to solve? Because then that really dictates what data fields you want to have in there. And obviously, I think a GIS is very key because it's spatial, and everything we do in land and real estate is based on some place and point on the earth. So it has to be geo-referenced and tied to a point on the earth. So I think you really have to have a mapping system that does that, not just spreadsheets, and obviously not just files.
Mm.
Looking at line items, it's just very difficult, especially with the sheer scale. We talked about that in the beginning of the webinar. Just the numbers are just, can be staggering, with how many parcels a transmission line encompasses, or a solar project has, and all the leases that are with it. So those are, in my opinion, some of the things you really need to consider when you start considering a tool like that.
Mm. Well, thanks for sharing with us. Is there any other question? I'll let people think maybe if they have more question, but had one last one for you. Um, what's the fun part of your job? What drives you to go to work every day?
Oh boy. Well, number one, I think I like to say we're deal junkies. We'll do anything. We love to help. We love to help our internal clients when they come to us. Um, it feels good to accomplish that. It feels good to kick the tires and to see physically the work that we've done. When you see a power plant built, or a transmission line, or even a customer get hooked up, to be able to go out there and say, oh, I worked on that, or attending award, business awards, real estate projects, and to see all those different projects get named. Obviously we're just one tiny component to the whole gamut that it takes to build, say, like an office building or something. But we do our part, and we have to, and it's critical for us to do good work and make it timely so that we are not a bottleneck to that. So there's that. It's also great when you have an awesome team with a great chemistry, that we all get stuff done. We all help each other out, and fill in the various gaps. And then and that's why I like also being in the IRWA. So it's not just my immediate team. I love collaborating with people across the country and hearing from them, their challenges and best practices and wins, and sharing what I've done, and then when I have challenges too, being able to call upon colleagues that are out there, find out, well, how do you guys do this? You know, can you share this type of document? Those sorts of things. So I love just the camaraderie that we all have in the industry. So
Which
yeah,
is
those are
something you'll be doing in a few weeks. I think you are attending and hosting a symposium. So the led by the IRWA. Sorry, you want to tell us a bit more about this?
sure, sure. So April 9th, we have a symposium, and that is for the International Right-of-Way Association International Electric and Utility Committee. So we're doing a symposium in New Orleans in the French Quarter. It's at the Hotel Montleone. We've got a great lineup of great speakers, and hopefully we can share the link in the chat, or maybe even the flyers. Or if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to provide that. Please do hurry though. We only have space for 132 attendees, and I think we're getting close. We're probably only have maybe 20 at the most, and this was as of a day or two ago. So I'm anticipating we're going to fill up, and it's going to be a great, not only a great learning event, but also the networking and the food. So we're going to be meeting. We're doing a reception at Pat O'Brien's. If you guys have been there and you know Pat O'Brien's, it's a great tradition in New Orleans to get a hurricane. Only one though, guys. Not too many of those, because we need everybody's brain power the next day. And then after the symposium that evening, we're going to be doing a crawfish boil. So I don't even think, me personally, I've experienced that. So that'll be new for me and a great experience, as well as the food that we are selecting with the hotel. We definitely want everybody to get a true New Orleans experience with that food, because the food is just amazing. If you haven't been there, one of the first times I went there, I said to myself, I need to return just simply to eat all the different food, because I
Yeah,
didn't have enough time.
yeah.
So we're
Haven't
looking
traveled
forward
a
to
lot.
that. And
Yeah,
thanks
and
for
I put the link in the so people can see that on their screen, but we'll also send it with the recording. I don't see any other questions, so I think we're going to end it there. Thank you so much for your time, Blandon. Very insightful. I hope it was truly insightful for everyone who joined, and I wish everyone a good day wherever you are, Pacific, Eastern, further down. I hope you have a great day. Thank you all for joining.